Hello fishing friends, this is Matthew bringing you another reel service and repair video for a Zebco reel. Today I'm working on the Zebco One. This is a 1977 to a 1978 or 79 Zebco Omega. A really nice reel, one of the best ones that they made at the time, and still a really great reel. We just need to service it up and get it going again. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started on the Omega One. To get started, you're going to need some tools. Like you're going to need a nut driver for the handle nut, a small screwdriver, small Phillips, a larger Phillips, and a flat screwdriver, and maybe even a big flat screwdriver. Needle nose pliers. You're going to need some reel oil. You're going to need some reel grease, and you're probably going to need something to clean it out with. Now you can use a variety of things. For really crusty oil, I like to use WD-40 to break up the old grease and clean it out. You might want to use, might want to have some kind of brush. Even an old toothbrush will work. I have a set of different brushes with stainless steel, brass, and plastic bristles. You may want to have a little brush for applying the grease. The first place I like to start is with the front nose cone and take all the front part apart. Now this Zebco Omega One is missing a lock screw. I've been searching for one and have yet been able to find one, but I've been searching for one for a long time. I may end up making one, but the covers stay on pretty good, so I don't know if I really need one, but I do want to have one to finish the restoration on this. So normally you would loosen that screw up just like a half a turn or one turn, and then you can take the covers off. So let's take the cover off here. It's pretty clean on the inside, but we'll clean it up more. We need to take the front spinner cone assembly off, so hold on to the handle and spin it to the left. Now this is the brake, and it's come unglued, and we're going to have to fix that, but that's not a big deal. We can glue that back on with some rubber cement back to the brake assembly. We need to take the spool off. To do that, using a small screwdriver or a large screwdriver, come into on this E-clip right on the side here and give it a little twist. Now always make sure your drag is as loose as possible. That will help get it off, because it won't be putting pressure on the spool. Okay, there's that clip. Now we can start taking the drag apart and take the spool off. So here's a drag washer. This was kind of a unique one. It was a stainless steel washer with these little rubber pads that acted as the drag. Okay, now we can take the spool off. Okay, let's take the back off. And let's take the handle off. Okay, we need to take the drag, not the drag, but the line brake assembly all apart. So to do that, we've got two little tabs or little arms here. This one right here and one over here. And we just need to get those off of this piece right here. So we just need to take and push it to the side like that. And take it out just like that. And don't lose those little springs. Just leave it like that. And now this piece will come out of the front. Okay, and we're going to end up, well, towards the end, before we put it all back together, we'll get this fixed and glued back together. Okay, now one thing to be aware of on this is it doesn't look like this can actually come apart, because it has a rivet right there where it's been riveted in. And the way that this drag works is it has a cam right here, and as you tighten it up, that cam pushes against a little pin right here, and that pin pushes up against there, tightening it up against the spool. Okay, to loosen it, it turns all the way that way. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to take out this part here to get it all cleaned up. So we need a little Phillips screwdriver for that. Okay, there's that, taking that apart here. Now I want to show you something here. This little arm right here, see that little arm right there? That little arm is the anti-reverse arm. When it goes back together, it needs to engage this little slot right there, because that's what engages and gives it the anti-reverse system. Okay, that's anti-reverse on, anti-reverse off. All that crusty grease in there. Okay, now this just doesn't come apart here like that. The way that these come apart can be a little bit tricky, but what you have is you have a little E keeper right here on this part right there, and you have to take that apart in order to get this all apart and service it completely. So I'm just going to clean this up. There it is right there. Don't lose it. Okay, and there's the little cup. And take that spring off. And then there's a little brass sleeve right there that goes inside the spring. Then that piece will come out. Okay. This piece right here locks in place, and so you gotta just take and scoot this aside. And then this will come out. There we go. So we got that piece out and we can get it all cleaned up. Now this is the one ball bearing that it has on there, and it can come off, but you have to take off some clip rings, and I don't think it's really necessary to take it off. We'll just clean it up. We're not going to use water on it. We'll use some WD-40, then we'll oil it up and get it all cleaned up. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up, because I've got everything taken apart that I can take apart on it, because nothing else here can be taken off and apart. Alright, there's one more thing I need to take apart, and that's this main shaft assembly. So we're going to take this off here, and the reason we want to take this off here is because this acts as a bushing, and this piece right here acts as a bushing on the main shaft. See that? And we want to clean that all up so that we get all the old grease out of there. So we'll take that off. That's pretty simple to take that off. And then we have this piece right here. Now we have another little E-clip here that clips on the end of there that holds this all together. So we want to take that apart so that we can completely take this off of the shaft, okay, and get to this bushing here so that we can service it and get good new oil and grease in there. Just take a little screwdriver, just get in there and carefully remove this little E-clip. Okay, there we go. And then we can take off, there's a little, it's like a little plastic washer, and then there's this little piece here, okay, and it could go back together either way. Then there's another little plastic washer and a little metal spring washer, and the concave part goes down. Then we can take off this little bushing right here, okay, and clean that all up. It's a brass bushing, and then we can clean this all up. Alright, we got all of our little parts in here. We're going to get this all cleaned up before we put it back together. Alright, I have all my parts cleaned up. The first thing I want to do is I want to fix this. This is the brake ring, and this little rubber piece, this rubber washer, has to be glued into there. So I'm going to get my rubber cement, clean this up and degrease it to make sure it has a good bond, and glue that in there and set it aside, because it will be one of the things I got to put in there at, not last, but before I put all the front back together. To clean this up with, I'm just going to use some carburetor brake cleaner and just spray a little bit on a paper towel. And I just want to make sure that this has been degreased. Okay, and then clean this up really well and make sure that this is degreased as well. Okay, I'll let that dry out. And I just got some all-purpose contact cement here. And I just want to go around and put a little bit. That's a lot. Around in there. Okay, then we're going to let that dry. And then we're going to put some on here. Okay, we want to let that dry. Okay, I let that dry long enough so that it will, once I put this together, it will just stay together good and strong. So there we go. And that should last me for a good long time. I'll wipe off a little bit of this excess glue. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside and let it finish curing up. Okay. Alright, now we can start putting this thing all back together. We're going to put it back together basically in reverse order. The first step is to get the pinion shaft assembled and put back together. So here's my parts for that. I've got my pinion gear and a bearing. Now one of the things I want to do with this bearing is I want to take some good real oil, and it's kind of a sealed bearing, so I want to take and get some oil down in there and let it soak in. And we want to put some oil on this Okay. Very nice. This right here acts as a bushing, and this right here slides in and out of that and spins around in it. So we want to make sure we get some oil on that. Okay, and I'm also going to put just a little touch of grease on there. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just to give it some longevity. So this could go down in here like this, and then we can take this little locking part, this little locking arm, and scoot it over and lock it in place. Okay, and then we can take this and put it down in here, just like so. It has a little pin through there that needs to go through there. So there we go. Okay, in here a little bit closer. We got a little sleeve, a little spring, a little cup here. So first we put on that little brass sleeve, and we put on this little spring there, cup here. That's going to keep the little keeper in place as well. So you put that in there and push it down. There we go. And it's locked into place. Okay, now that's all there is to it there. And we want to take I want to put a little bit of grease right around in there to protect it. Okay. Then we'll grease that gear right there when we grease the main gear. The next thing we want to do is, I'm going to set that aside, is we want to reassemble this piece right here. The drag adjustment on it goes on this side here. Okay. And I want to show you something on this. See that hole right there? That hole right there was all filled up with grease, but that right there allows you to take the back off and put a little bit of oil in there once in a while to lubricate this, because this doesn't have a bearing on there. What it acts as is this whole thing acts as a bushing. Okay. We have this part right here. We need to put this back on, and I've got this all cleaned up. And what we want to do with this, now this doesn't have a hole in there, which kind of surprised me a little bit, but we do need to take, and I'm going to put a little bit of grease and oil on this. Just a little bit of grease on that shaft right there, and then some oil in here and on the shaft. Okay. Put that back together. Then we got this little concave spring washer. Put that on there. Then we got one of these little plastic washers. Now this has a little D-shaped hole on there which goes on to here. This goes on. Okay, and then we got another little plastic washer. This little D-shaped thing again here. Put that on there, and then we can put our little keeper on. There we go. Okay. And that should move freely and just have a little bit of friction on there. Let's lubricate this. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here, just a light coat, and then some oil. Put that on there. So you will be able to oil this up. Just try dropping a drop of oil in there. Okay. Engages with a little pin. We want to make sure that it's greased up, so we're going to add just some grease along in there. Okay, so we're ready to put this shaft back into here. Now when we put this back together, see this little hole right there? That little pin, this little pin right here, that little pin right there by my thumb has to go in that slot. So, see that? Just like that. Okay, that's off, and that's on. That's how that works. Now we're going to put these little main shaft caps back on. We got 3 of them. Make sure that's down there all the way. Then we can put each one of these little caps back on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put the handle on and grease up this main gear. So if you just put a gob there and then reel it, a little bit there, reel it. That's all it needs. Okay, and that's nice and smooth. And again, if you're using this, you can see when it's all the way loose, you can't see that, but if you turn it, you can see that hole and come in here and service it with a little bit of oil. Now we're going to put the line brake back together. So we just need to take and fit this through here. Just like so. And then we have this little brake bar that goes across here. These little springs right here have there's little nubs down in there that they set on. So one there and one there. And all you need to do to get this going here is, it can be a little bit tricky, but get one side started and push it aside. Get your spring up underneath there. Let's see, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get these little springs on the little nubs first. There we go. And then with it sideways, I'm just going to take a screwdriver and push this to the side. Demonstrate this. Put one side in. I want to make sure that I get the spring on the little nub. There we go. Make sure that that works good. So we can put the back on now. that's working great. So let's put a little bit of grease on this part here. And then we'll put some grease on this shaft here. Put some grease on this part here, on the very front here. Okay, that's plenty. Then we can put on this. Now you want to make sure that that has these little ridges here. Make sure those ridges go down because it goes up against a clicker. So we'll put that on. Okay. Put some grease on the spool right there. Put on this. This is a keyed washer, so it has a little key right there. It has 3 little keys to lock it in place. So just put it on there and then kind of wiggle it until it gets in place. Then take this and put this on. Okay, that's locked into place. We need to put some grease in here. We want to put some grease where it slides along. So just put some grease right across there. And we want to put some grease right here on these little cams. And then we want to just take and put a little bit of oil right on these hinges right here. You just want to test and make sure they work good. And then we can spin it on. Okay. Okay, that's working great. Okay, that's working good. Yeah, the drag is working really nicely. So the decal goes up, and that hole right there, that's a little drain hole, goes on the bottom. Okay, that's working very well. We'll turn the anti-reverse off. This doesn't have a bait alert, but that's the anti-reverse off. And the anti-reverse on. Okay, before I edited this video, I went ahead and ordered the part that I needed for this. And I'm really happy I just got it today, so I can finish this reel and have it all put together. Here's the little part that I need. Right here. It's a little lock screw with a special little nut. So we'll take this off here and take the back off. The short side, you can see there's a short finger and a long finger. The long finger goes over here. Okay, get that in there. Let's hold that in place. Get this screw started. Now that's about where you want it. It doesn't need to be any tighter or looser than that, just so that those drop down. And then when you put your cap on, twist it and lock it in place. And you can lock the cap by giving it a couple turns until it's just snug. It doesn't have to be really tight, just snug. And that locks that front cover and the back cover in place. To help my channel grow, please make sure you hit that like button And subscribe if you want to see more videos coming up and get notifications for those. Thanks, and have a great day the next time you go fishing. Bye.